Welcome, dear listeners. Are you ready to delve into the darkness once again? From inexplicable paranormal encounters to unsettling mysteries that remain unsolved, we've heard it all in our past 2 seasons, haven't we? But rest assured, the chills are far from over. In fact, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of the unknown. In Season 3, we've gathered a bone-chilling collection of tales that will test the boundaries of your imagination and question the reality you think you know. So, as we take this next step into the shadows together, I want to extend a warm thank you to our loyal listeners who have journeyed with us so far, and a hearty welcome to the newcomers who have just stumbled upon our dark little corner of the internet. Remember, there's no turning back now. Once you've peered into the darkness, it peeks back at you. So, turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and let the stories unfold. And, of course, remember to breathe, it can get rather unnerving. Welcome to Season 3. When my husband first hit me, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even hurt, at least not in the physical sense. I had been expecting it for a while, every time a muscle in his jaw twitched or his breathing shallowed. A short fuse ready to explode. At first it was words murmured under his breath, a disapproving shake of his head. Then it was the frustration, along with an impatience reserved for children who don't know better. Or an untrained pet. The way he spoke to me slowly became more and more hateful, his vile words often puncturing me like knives. The worst came when he was drunk, which was pretty often, but he wasn't half as brave when he was hungover. He never apologized, instead blaming his bad temper on work-related stress, saying I only added to it. Basically, he was a poor fucking excuse for a man. The first time he actually swung his fist, he punched a hole in our wall, all because I accidentally bought the wrong kind of beer. For days, the hole stayed untouched, wide like a yawning mouth. Every time I looked at it, I knew that I was next in line. As for the beer, he still drank all of it. At one point, he even tasked me to patch up the hole, either by my own hand or with my own money. A vase flew by my head when I called him crazy. I learned after that not to talk back, even if it didn't change anything. Not long after, when my husband's fist got tired of plaster and glass, my flesh sufficed. In a way I was almost offended, how he didn't consider me first even for this. Always on the back burner, the toy forgotten in the back of the dresser, the ghost that watched things unfold for everyone else. But you know what the worst part is? I couldn't leave him. See, when I married him, I didn't do it out of love. I did it out of a need so great that it was almost a tangible thing, threatening to consume me. I was young and very poor, desperate to get out of my parents' shabby little house. They wouldn't miss me anyways, I was one of 7 kids they couldn't feed and much less care for. They probably didn't even remember me. Frank, my husband, was a little older than me, a college dropout that had a job as a mechanic. He wasn't ugly, not necessarily, but girls weren't throwing themselves at him either. He had a bit of a mean face too, with dark, flat eyes and early onset wrinkles from frowning so much. He was a good kisser, though, I'll give him that. We met after my father almost totaled his old pickup truck, bringing it in for repairs he really couldn't afford. In Frank, I saw an opportunity, and my need overpowered any feelings of warning. We both just settled for each other, unconsciously knowing there wouldn't be anything better in our shitty little town. We got married as soon as I graduated high school, moving in together soon after. Our wedding was about as romantic as you'd expect. Small town chapel with all the guests sitting on the groom's side. His lips tasted like greasy gas station taquitos when we kissed to seal the ceremony. I got a job waitressing and also helped stock at the supermarket a couple times a week. We were definitely struggling, but our crammed apartment was infinitely better than my childhood home. The days began to blend into each other, turning into months and then years. Those first few years weren't so bad. They were monotonous, yes, but at least we mostly stayed out of each other's ways and focused on making enough to pay our bills. He was a heavy drinker like my father, and his party days never really seemed to end. Most nights, he was too drunk to do anything but yell and pass out, with me cleaning up the mess behind him. Things went to shit when we found out I couldn't have children. We, and when I say we, I mean just him, had been trying for a while with no luck, and a trip to the doctor brought us clarity. It was out of my control, obviously, and while I was a little sad, I was also infinitely thankful. It was a blessing in disguise. To him, these news were only a curse. He made sure to always remind me that I was a defective woman, that it had been a mistake to marry me, that he had lost his prime years being with me. Blah, blah, blah. He was fucking insufferable, but I did nothing and said nothing when he started fucking younger girls. At least he had left me alone when it comes to, well, that. I can't lie and say that I hadn't dreamed of having a daughter one day. Perhaps if I wound up somewhere much better in life, with a stable job that paid me well enough and the unshakable courage to stand up for myself, I'd run away with my daughter and be the parent I desperately needed as a child. I would have named her Cassie, and it would have been us against the world. I was stupid enough to dare to hope. I knew that to bear his child and bring it into this world would be condemning it to a life of suffering. I would never forgive myself for it. I cried often when he wasn't home, but after a while, I ran out of tears. Life had never been lonelier. You may think I'm a coward, but I don't really care. I don't think I need to reiterate that I couldn't afford a fucking divorce, and going to bed with bruises was better than sleeping in alleyways reeking of piss. I still had some sense of self-worth. Still, I had my way of dealing with things. My own dirty little secret. During the day, I was the perfect wife, placid and quiet and always of service. I packed his lunch in the mornings, along with extra strong coffee to nurse his hangovers. I kept the house impeccable, paid bills on time and learned how to cover up the evidence of his violence on my body. I had deep, teeth-shaped grooves on my wrists from holding in my screams, so I always wore long sleeves. I learned early on that making any sort of noise would only make things worse for me. Nobody suspected a thing, perhaps because they didn't care to look too closely. At night, as I lay awake in bed, I thought of carnage. All the violent ways I wanted payback, be it by my hand or not. In reality, I could never actually bring myself to get physical like that. I hadn't thought it possible for me to even conjure such scenarios, but years of repressed anger and hatred can really bring out the worst in a person. It all had to go somewhere. These thoughts followed me into dreams, where my imagination ran free. I dreamt of graceful arcs of blood spurting out of his jugular, staining our eggshell walls. How his large intestine would spool out of his sliced abdomen like unused yarn. Snapping one of his rib bones to pick meat off my teeth. And suddenly, I wasn't myself in those dreams. There was a creature, one so alike me, yet so different at the same time. At first it was hard for me to discern its features, but it became clearer with every night that passed. It had my hair, a dirty blonde that I always hated, but it was matted and falling off in chunks, exposing bald craters. It had no eyes or nose or ears, but the mouth took up most of the space needed for those, jutting out like an animal's maw. It was long and spindly, and when I dreamt of it crawling atop my husband, it reminded me of an arachnid closing in on a fly. It was a beautiful nightmare. The sight of it felt familiar, too, like it had always been there, an extension of my flesh that had been waiting for me to unearth it at the right time. A projection of the unfathomable strength and brutality I wished I possessed during daytime. So, naturally, I latched onto it, addicted to the nocturnal rush of adrenaline. Nobody could take this carnage away from me. I began to wake up feeling more refreshed, more alive than I'd ever been, like I had been practicing lots of self-care and catching up on years' worth of rest. I was sleeping a lot better, drifting through my day with ease, and a syrupy sweet smile plastered on my face. Someone at work even told me I was glowing, asking if I was pregnant, to which I bluntly responded with I'm infertile. All right, my friends, we've reached the end of yet another eerie journey, through the shadows of Reddit's most chilling tales. I sincerely hope you found these stories as riveting and spine-chilling as I did. The world is full of mysteries, isn't it? Remember, if you've enjoyed today's exploration into the unknown, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the podcast with your friends who also love a good scare, it's always more fun to explore the shadows together. A big heartfelt thank you to all of our subscribers, listeners and patrons out there. Your support is invaluable, it keeps the lights on here, and more importantly, keeps us delving into the eerie corners of the internet to bring you the best scary stories out there. If you've encountered any creepy occurrences or have your own chilling stories to share, don't hesitate to reach out to us via subreddit chronicles@gmail.com. We always love hearing from you, and who knows, your story might just feature in one of our future episodes. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your hearts brave, and your lights on. After all, you never know what's lurking in the shadows. This is your host, signing off. Stay safe and keep exploring the unexplored.